Yeah, good evening, guys. Alright. So today it's not it's not going to be anything too difficult, nothing too harsh. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do repeat until and while loops in Pascal, and also a bit of pseudocode as well. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So here are the two questions that were given. So in groups of two, I did go through this with my group members, so you don't have to worry about that. So first question, I'm going to be going right into it. Try my best not to move too slow for you guys. So first question, use a repeat until loop to repeatedly prompt the user to enter a password until the correct password, which is secret, is entered. When the correct password is provided, the program prints access granted. Alright, so now that we're over in Jamboard, what we can do is that we can just plot out what the question is asking for to make sure that we hit all the marks that it wants. So the first thing is obviously repeat until. So there's also some things that we have to repeat as well, obviously, which is that we need to repeatedly prompt the user to enter a password until the correct password is entered. So when it says prompt, that means it's both output and input. So output prompt, input password until password is equal to secret. I'm sorry about how it looks right here, but this should make it a little bit more readable. So this is what we're going to be needing. So we need to have the repeat until, and inside the repeat until is going to be the output of the prompt, the input of the password, until the password is equal to secret. So how repeat until loops work is that they basically repeat until our requirement is met. So let's go on to online GDB and see what's happening. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to set our variable, which would be var. And what should we, now that we set our so the first thing that we need to do is that we need to set our variables. So how we do that is what we need to do first is we need to set our variable. What we need to do first is that we need to set our variable for the password, and how we do that is we start off by saying var, not car, and then we give the name of our variable. I'm going to call mine password, and it's going to be a string because we're dealing with text here. Next we can begin. So it doesn't ask for anything before, so we can just go right into the repeat until loop. So the repeat until loop has very simple syntax. So it's just basically repeats what we're going to be repeating, which is the prompt. How we do our prompt is that we say write line and then what we want it to type. So please input password. This is going to be our prompt. So now we know that we have one markdown. Next is going to be our input. So how we do that is that we say read line and then the variable that the input is going to get saved to. In this case, which is password. Now that we have that, we can close off this repeat until by saying until, and finally the requirement that we want to stop at. Requirement that we want to stop at is that password is equal to secret. So we just say pswd, which is our variable for password, is equal to secret. And then finally we can end with a full stop. Now let's run it. Any errors? So we see please input password, good sign. So first thing we're going to do to test this is to put in some bad passwords. So like password. Now let's put in the right password, which is secret. Okay. I feel like I forgot something though. Oh yes, it needs to say access granted. Completely forgot. So how we do that then is that after the until loop is that we just say right line access granted. The reason why we put it after the repeat until loop is because we only want it to print access granted after it meets the requirements. So we wouldn't put it inside or before the repeat until loop. So now let's try and run this again and see how it works. Still doesn't let us through the bad password. Right password, and it does say access granted when we do put in the right password. So that means that this program is good to put down on our assignment. Alright, now that that's highlighted, we can move on to number 2. Number 2 says use a while loop to count down from 10 to 1 by decrementing the variable I by 2 in each iteration. It prints the current value of I during each iteration of the loop. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to paste this down here. Now let's go back over to the Jamboard and see how we do this. So just like before, our first step is to see what we need to do. So what it asks for is a while loop, and it's going to be going down until it reaches 0. So the best way to write this here is to say that while the variable I, which is what we're going to be using, is while I is not equal to 0. In pseudocode we have not equal as exclamation point equal. So while I is not equal to 0, we want it to decrement I by 2. So how we decrement is that we say the value of our variable I is now going to be I minus 2. That's decrementing, and after we decrement, we want it to print the variable for I. So in pseudocode, we just say print I. What else? Nothing else, so it seems. Alright, so there is one thing to take note of here, and that's that we have to count down from 10 to 0. Apologies though, in the assignment it does say from 10 to 1. I did bring this up with my teacher, and from 10 to 1 is not the correct instruction. Should be from 10 to 0. So that's why I've been going on with 0. So what's important here is that we have to start from 10. So how we do that is that we first have to assign I the value of 10. So now this should be fine to work with in our Pascal. So let's go over to the question, and we don't really need to change much, and we don't have to wipe everything, I mean. So I'll just change the variable that we have, I, change the value to integer. So now we have the begin. I'll just clear this out not to get you guys confused. So to begin, let's say I gets the value of 10, and while I is not equal to 0, while I is not equal to 0, do, you have to make sure that you have the do. If you don't have the do, it's not going to work. While I is not equal to 0, do, what are we going to do? We're going to say we're going to be decrementing, so I equal I minus 2. And we have to print I, so right line I. Oh, almost forgot, begin and end, we need that as well. Begin and I don't think there's anything else that we're tried. And it seems to work, you see. It counts down from for each iteration, it gives the value of I. So for the first iteration, it's going to be 10 minus 2, which is 8. And it goes all the way down until 0. So that's how we know that our program runs fine. So we just copy this over, put this down on the assignment. And let me just put the highlight and the Control V. And yeah, there. So this was not a difficult assignment. What's difficult about IT? Well, it's not really difficult. It's just a matter of learning and understanding what you're doing. Because a lot of the time people will get lost and they won't understand what to do. So that's why I'd implore you guys to just come and subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing a lot of IT work, a lot of math work, also work in general. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. If you have my number, just message me. I'll help you out. So that will be it for today's video, and I hope you guys were having a nice day, and bye bye.